Start recording. Hey, hi, hello. Good morning. Alexandria Codex. Let's talk. Let's turn up the gain on the mic a little bit. Let's adjust the mic arm. Let's talk. It is 9/11 RIP in the morning, January 18th, 2021. Oh. I'm fucking exhausted. Let me count the ways. I had a dream last night. And by last night, I mean this morning. The last dream I had before I woke up. That I remember anyway. It involved time travel. And I think early in the dream, the further back in the dream you get, the harder it is to really recall with any sharp contours. Far back in the dream, You know what? I'm gonna turn the river sounds down a little bit. They're pleasant, but they're absolutely mind-flooding. I traveled back in time in kind of an adventure game sort of way, where you go back in time to visit different periods of history, solve mysteries, very Carmen Sandiego kind of vibes. God, there was an old game by the name of Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego? There was also an accompanying television show. I only remember the video game. 1989 game? Jesus. Well, we played this as kids. Released for the SNES in 1993. IBM PC in 1990. Huh. Yeah, it was early 90s when I played this. It was on a PC, family computer. Regardless, it was kind of just that kitschy traveling in time, seeing different time periods, play acting as a person from the time, and getting a thing, or changing someone's mind on something, just poking and prodding in history, like you do in the genre. And I think inevitably, the association of time travel led me and my brain to go to my own developmental years. I was a teenager, like 12 or 13, 11, 12, 13, somewhere around there. And I still had God, there's so much to tease apart here. My parents were still acting like they were married in the way that they did for the majority of my life, not in the we're trying to fix our marriage or we're aware that there's problems kind of way, but in the we're just getting through it kind of way. Dad was finishing making chili Mom was sitting on a couch in the family room, the living room, with a friend. Some woman, I don't know, talking. Emily was around and, I don't know, seemingly happy. This must have been the house on Carlisle, I guess. So maybe I was a little younger than 12. Maybe that's about right. It's hard to say. In the dream, you know, it took on a lot of the appearances of that time, but it was about the size of our two-bedroom apartment that we lived in. For a few years. And it really was a two-bedroom apartment, wasn't it? Yeah. Was it a three-bedroom? I can't fucking remember. It was small. It was very small. I really don't remember that time very well. Not at all, which means I'd, like, intentionally put it out of memory. I probably wasn't home much. Was trying not to be home much, yeah. But anyway, I was about 12. I was about 12 and had the consciousness I have today pushed into the body of a 11 or 12-year-old. I was so uncomfortable with all of these small things that had never made me uncomfortable at the time. The way my parents acted towards each other, towards me. I, in the dream, got online and tried to find people I hadn't met yet. Even though, you know, at the time MySpace, I think, was really the only avenue to do that. Yeah, Facebook wouldn't be created for a few years. Neither would Twitter or any of these platforms. But, you know, because it was a dream, I managed to find people who I've dated and see their lives before me. And I mean, you can already kind of do that when you date someone or get to know someone because of the nightmare that is Facebook, right? Being able to go back and look at people's memories. But in the dream, it was real time, right? Not some artificial imagined past, or some, you know, not artificial, but, you know, imagined past. It was the real present day. And I was hit by this overwhelming thought or feeling, or like, what if these people were better off without me in their life? And like, my relationships with them were they just friends with me or dating me or whatever because they were making the best of a bad situation, effectively? That, I'm really not that great. Not that interesting or charismatic or intelligent or fascinating or attractive or whatever is a person. That really is a human being. I'm like a 5 out of 10. And for these people to have met me, for them to have fallen in love with me, for them to have dated me, for them to have gotten to know me, it wasn't because I was good. It was because they were desperate. That's kind of the feeling that woke me up. I hate that I think that way. I really do. Really do, because you can never really get a clear answer on that. Even if it were the case that the relationships I have just been out of pity or desperation or convenience. And they haven't been, but let's, for the sake of argument, say that they have been. The people who were doing things out of those motivations were probably not self-aware enough to recognize that's why they were doing it. A lot of people don't really possess or practice good self-awareness in that capacity. They just do what they do because they want to do it, because they feel a certain way, and they act on those feelings without questioning those feelings or deconstructing or dissecting those feelings. And I know this logically. God, this is a can of worms that I don't want to open. I never want to open. It's a bad can of worms because you start getting into it and there's no answers for you when you go down this existential slide. There are no fucking answers. Some people, I can say, why do you like me? And I'll believe them when they answer. Why do you talk to me? And I'll believe them when they answer. Other people, they don't. Other people just say, I don't know, or are vague, or particularly I'm thinking of one relationship in particular, particularly, well-spoken, Alex, great vocabulary today, very verbose. I woke up and I was thinking about one relationship. I just made myself incredibly sad thinking about it. Because I really can't tell if I'm friends with this person or what the fuck we are. I feel like I'm a useful tool for this person. Like, when they're sad or insecure or they don't have anyone to talk to, that they can always call me or talk to me because I'm safe. But when things are going well, I don't hear a fucking peep from them. Not really. And when I need reassurance or I need to talk, or I need that same sort of engagement that I feel like I offer them, I don't really get it from them. And I have very strong feelings for this person. But I always feel apologetic in expressing them because I worry that it makes them uncomfortable, or I worry that they respond positively or affirmingly to those expressions out of feelings of not wanting to make me feel bad. Like, I love them. And they will tell me that they love me, but do I believe it? No, not really. Not in the same way. I still feel like a fucking parasitic hitchhiker in their life. Like, and you know, that it wouldn't be bad if we were both on the same page of what the fuck is going on, but we're not, and we never are. And when I try to talk about, hey, I want to talk about and tease this out, and you know, I want to be clear here, or I need some clarity, I feel like the conversations are never really enlightening, never really clarifying in the ways that I want. When, like, we have probably, like, one mutual acquaintance, a friend of theirs, acquaintance of mine, who will, like, repeat back stuff to me that this person has said about me that's all, like, good shit. And I don't know. I fixated on this relationship when I was waking up. So I pulled out my phone and I started trying to reach out to the person. And I did that thing where you start opening a conversation. I am reading chat, by the way. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just doing a very train of thought, kind of train of consciousness kind of thing. And I did this thing where you start writing out a message and deleting it, and write it out, and delete it, and write it out, and delete it. Like, hey, I just had this dream that I traveled back in time and could see what your life was like before we met. And I'm like, no, I don't need to share that part. That's not really what I want to talk about. There was, hey, or no, I'm confused. I don't really know how we fit in, or how we work, or what we are. And then I deleted that one. Then, in a very cliche way, I just sent, hey. I waited for them to respond with some equally tone-neutral greeting, which wasn't surprising, but given that I had started out the conversation with that, hey. But I asked to check in, and then I just started doing this because I don't know. I mean, that's the correct way to approach a conversation. You say, hello, fellow human. Then you wait for a callback response, and then you'd be like, I am interested in having this sort of conversation. Do I have buy-in from you for this sort of conversation? And then you wait. And if you get a yes, I am in for this sort of conversation, then you have that sort of conversation. That is the emotionally mature, respectful, consent-oriented way to talk about things. Rather than dumping on, at the beginning of the conversation, hey, I'm thinking about this, and I'm feeling this, and I'm worried about this, and I feel like our relationship is that of someone who still has really strong romantic feelings for someone that they used to date, and probably always will, and someone who might not have those feelings anymore, but feels good when they get attention. Am I reading this right? This doesn't seem healthy to me. Can we talk about this? You know, even that phrasing isn't terrible, but a conversation is a conversation, right? You don't just start at the destination. You have to walk there together. Now, I wouldn't be dreaming about this shit if I was okay. If I was, like, really healthy, right? Like, shortly after thinking about this, sending out the first couple of messages, I put the phone down in bed. The lights still weren't on. I reached, put my glasses on, and I swear it took about 20 seconds for me to have a, what if I just wasn't alive thought. and then, you know, I laughed. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm in a terrible headspace today, and I haven't been awake for more than like 5 minutes. This is fucking horrible. Because I thought, like, it went from thinking about that conversation to thinking about me being in pain. Like, emotional pain, existential pain, that I was having a really hard time imagining and building and working my way to where I'm, like, surviving right now. Like, I'm so socially isolated and financially stressed and, like, teetering on the brink. And, like, yeah, I'm feeling a lot of pain, like, and I'm reaching out about this kind of stuff, but I think people have just gotten so used to me being in constant low-level pain and anxiety that me reaching out about it is just like, oh, it's a day that ends with Y. Yeah, exactly. Rain, okay, I know this might sound crazy to you, but hear me out for a second and consider death. Basically that. It was just like, man, what if, you know, what if not? Like, no, brain. No, we don't think that way. No, we're not going down that path. And my day is scuffed before it has even begun. Right, like, okay, I wouldn't be thinking this way if I was taking care of myself. But putting that personal responsibility entirely on me is not necessarily fair either. I need to clean. I need to cook. I need to get groceries. But I haven't bought groceries because I'm nickel and diming my bank account and trying to calculate how much I may get from unemployment, if that'll be enough to cover rent and cover utilities and cover everything else. And is it okay to buy food, or do I just not buy stuff to dress up rice and beans, and do I just spend another, like, fucking 8 hours soaking beans so I can heat up the beans so I can make rice and beans that'll last for like a week and a half and then go through this entire fucking cycle all over again? And, like, as far as cleaning my apartment goes, I need to take out the trash because I know it makes me sad to walk into the kitchen and see a giant pile of trash. It isn't necessarily bad for my physical health, but it's bad for my mental health. And it helps me feel in control of my environment, so I should do it even though I don't want to do it because it involves going outside, and I don't really want to go outside because I'm getting, like, low-key agoraphobic at this point. And, like, I'm feeling kind of gross and unattractive because I haven't been as physically active this year as I was last year. Weight-wise, I'm about at the same weight, but I was really hoping to be high 120s. I mean, I am a low 130s, but like high 120s, low 130s, skirting that 130 line, working on building muscle at this point, not running to keep vaguely under 135. And feeling like I'm just fucking atrophying and eating away from physical inactivity and a bare bones diet. That's not a good feeling. It's a terrible feeling. I mean, also in terms of like, God, you know, my stress is probably leading to health problems. So I need to not be stressed out because it's literally taking years off of my life. And I don't know how to not be stressed out right now. Like, there's so many things that are causing problems I don't know how to deal with. In terms of personal hygiene, like, I don't really like my body right now. I'm getting, like, dysphoric? Yeah, a little dysphoric. And that's not good. And it's really hard to take, like, affirmative action. Okay, take on, like, affirmative, thought processes, or actions, or whatever, when I'm feeling this way. And it's really difficult to reach out to other people for affirmation or affection when I'm in a place where I probably wouldn't believe it if I got it. Oh. It's a fucking tangled up yarn ball of problems. And you know, you can take a pair of scissors to the yarn ball and just start nipping through one thread at a time. And I think that's how you have to deal with this. You could untangle it one fucking thread at a time. Or you can take scissors to it and just start snipping away at the bad boy. Ugh. God, I don't know. It's fucking exhausting. It's fucking exhausting. I don't want to have to go through this fucking labyrinth of mental health upon waking up. This sucks. This absolutely sucks. I'm alive. I should probably be getting unemployment payments this week. I didn't last week because the local Washington Republicans refused to use unanimous consent to continue emergency provisions, which waived the waiting week for unemployment insurance. The waiting week is the first week where you are qualified, where they make sure that you're actually qualified before you start getting benefits. You do not retroactively get benefits for that week. I'm also stressed out because the unemployment site has not waived the $16,000 balance that they think I owe, even though the judge found that I don't owe that and they should reconsider that. So maybe that's just taking time, you know, bureaucracy. But I've got no communication from them whatsoever regarding that. I don't know if I'm retroactively going to get unemployment for the weeks that I applied for it, because the finding of the hearing was that I was qualified. So I believe that retroactively I should be qualified, but looking retroactively at those weeks through the UI on the website, it still says disqualified for all those weeks. And there's no way to appeal that decision because the decision's already been appealed, but the findings of that decision, or the conclusion of that decision, seems to have not been applied. Maybe I'm being impatient, you know, it's only been a week or so. Would have been a little bit more than a week. And, you know, they're overtaxed. It took them 130 fucking days just to get back to me. So maybe I should be thinking on the scale of months. But when I'm like, listen, I need $600 right now to cover rent and utilities for the month. I don't want to be nickel and diming this. I just want to know if I'll be making money or not, if I will get the money that I paid into this system or not. Yep, sucks. Sucks. Not great. Not great. Yeah, okay, so I want to blame finances. It's the linchpin for why everything is the way it is right now. Because, even if it's not the reason, I'm using it as an excuse for other things. Like, well, I don't have money, so I can't go on dates. Right? I can't go out, I can't spend money on dates because I don't have money. Right? It would be really irresponsible to go on dates, even cheap dates, because I don't have money. And so if I can't go on a date with anyone, I shouldn't even start talking to new people who I might be potentially interested in dating, because if I can't logically follow through, then why even start? Now, that's a logical fallacy. You can start because getting to know people can be affirming and reassuring and interesting and exciting in its own way. And if you get to the point in that relationship where you're like, hey, you're really cool, I think I'd like to meet you in person or go do some stuff together. If they're really cool and you really are connecting and they're a person worth having in your life, and you can say, I'd really like to just, I don't know, go for a walk or hang out outside somewhere or do something really cheap because I'm kind of on a tight budget right now. And I'm sure they'd be understanding about that. So this is a logical fallacy, and I'm using my lack of income is an excuse not to engage with other people, is an excuse not to talk to new people, is an excuse not to do that. So what's the real reason? I'm scared? Probably. I don't want to be vulnerable? Probably. I don't want to face rejection? Probably. I am feeling insecure, you know, when I was talking about body dysphoria, absolutely. You know, and money does play into that, right? I feel like I don't have the money to dress the way I want to dress, present the way I want to present, undergo body modifications that I want to do, you know, tattoo, vasectomy, etc., 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 etc. Okay, so, you know, understandable, but that shouldn't preclude me from having relationships with people. No one, you know, I used this advice with the last person I was dating, who was obviously not in a place where they were ready to date, or at least not date me yet. No one's a finished product. You know, you can't wait until you're done, because you'll never be done. And if you do that, you're just gonna put off and put off and put off and put off dating and meeting new people forever. It's an excuse that'll never go away, because you're never going to be perfect. And that's okay, no one is. I don't know how to overcome insecurity. I feel worried that I'm not attractive. But there are two people I could literally text right now who I know are insanely horny for me. At least two. I know of two that I'm like 99% confident. But me being unable to see it and feel it makes it difficult to accept or believe it from other people. Or I do believe that they find me attractive or whatever. But I think that they're wrong or stupid or blind or whatever for it. I haven't felt that way in a while, but I know I have the capacity to feel that way is a pushback against that reasoning and logic. It's an emotional pushback. It's irrational and bitter and mean and petty, but it is something I'm capable of. So some affirmation absolutely comes from external sources. But as a process, I think, for me anyway, it has to start as an internal process. Right? That makes sense. What do I think I need to do to kind of get there? I think I need to reshave the sides of my head because I don't like how the sides are growing out. I don't like how it looks. I don't like that I'm pretty sure I'm slowly balding, and I think it's accelerated because of stress. And honestly, I would like to be on some degree of hormonal replacement therapy right now. Not right now. Like, how old am I? 15 years ago. I would have liked to have started 15 years ago, but that ain't that ship sailed. But if I were doing that, that would help offset and even reverse hair loss, which would be cool. There are a lot of other cool things there, but I'm not gonna dig into that. If I weren't so fucking stressed out all the time, that would slow it or offset it. Yeah. But then there's the cop-out answer, well, I'm just stressed out because of money. Which, is like 90% of what's going on. But, okay, we don't have control over money. Let's focus on, can touch up my haircut, which people liked, and people probably still like. If I touch it up, it'll get back to the point where I like it again, and that's good. Then I should do laundry, so I can dress in clothes that actually make me feel attractive, rather than whatever is left that's clean after 3 weeks of not doing laundry. While laundry is going, I should probably shave. Because I don't like that I have body hair, and I feel better about myself if I shave it. I hate how much maintenance is required for me to just not be disgusted with myself. I'll see women in my life talk about, like, how nice it is to not shave their legs in the winter or whenever. Or, like, to grow out their body hair and how, like, liberating that is. And I'm like, it is not liberating for me at all. It is debilitating. I don't want this. Well, Alex, you can always look at laser hair removal. Yeah, with what, thousands of dollars? No, I can't. And, shaving lets you kind of remedy the problem in addressing it, but it also, for the time that you are shaving, forces you to hyper-fixate and focus on it. You have to be very aware of it while you're shaving. For me, that's an incredibly wonky headspace to be in. Ugh. God, yeah, I've been on such a downward negative tilt with my self-image. I kind of hate my voice right now. It's too nasally. Other people like it. I don't. And I don't really know what I want to do about that. I don't really know what voice I want me to have. I mean, no one really likes the sound of their own voice, right? It's a very well documented thing. Or very few people do, anyway. God, yeah. So I woke up in a great headspace today. Great headspace today. You know, how are things doing more broadly? I mean, status quo, baby. I'm towing that line. If I get paid what I think I should get paid out of the system that I paid a lot more into, I should be okay. Barely. I should barely be okay. If I retroactively get paid for weeks that I applied, which by policy and by program I should, but I may not just because of bureaucracy, then I'd be way better than okay. But if I'm just skirting that line, you know, I'm probably fine. Oh, God. One thing I do want to talk about, because, you know, we're 3/4 or 4, 6, 2/3, there we go, the way through this. I want to cut this off at the latest at the hour mark. I think nationally, as far as COVID goes, we have, in the United States, peaked. Prior to Christmas, I was talking about how people are going to get together for Christmas, and it's going to take up to 2 weeks for them to show symptoms from there. So people who were infected at Christmas are then going to go do stuff for New Year's, and then after New Year's, they'll have 2 weeks of infectivity. We have passed the 2-week mark after New Year's, and we've started seeing things stop peaking. We had all-time record high number of new cases on January 8th. It's over 300,000 new cases. Since then, it has not approached that peak. Second highest was 241,000 on January 15th, which is a lot, you know. Yesterday was the lowest in, what, a month? Yeah, about a month, with 169,000. Nice, by the way. I think the way this should play out is people aren't gathering for anything this month. Nothing happens in January. There's New Year's and then nothing. It's a fucking cold ass time of the year, so people should stay inside as much as possible. I mean, unemployment's at an all-time high, so where are people fucking going anyway? If nationally we had bars and restaurants forced to close, that would really lock this down. I think that we're going to, at least January and February, I'm feeling fairly positive that we're going to see some decline here. You know, I'm not saying this with a positive tone because my brain is eating me alive, but I do think there's hope for the next couple of months, especially if the vaccine rollout continues as inefficient as it's been. Everyone who is vaccinated is one less potential carrier, one less potential vector, which helps insulate and mitigate, insulate and mitigate, insulate and mitigate. So even if it's slow, it's better than nothing. But, you know, we will not have 100% of the US population vaccinated by the end of 2021. At current rates, it might take up to a decade to reach herd immunity for the United States. So I think we're going to see a decline. I think we're going to see a drop in January and February. But if nothing else meaningfully changes, I think we're going to see numbers reminiscent of last year once we hit... Well, not reminiscent of, but I think we're going to see an acceleration curve like spring of last year once we get to the spring. And I'm letting myself be optimistic here. I really am. In hoping that winter will keep people inside. But of course, you know, you look at LA, you look at Texas, you look at Florida, and you look at their numbers right now. California currently had 31,000 new cases yesterday. Texas, 12,000. Florida, 11,000. New York, 14,000. Those aren't going away. Those hotbeds aren't going away. I think I'm speaking more like here locally and in most of the United States. I don't know, I'm trying to be optimistic. Alright, I'm trying. God, it's crazy to me. Looking back, this is definitely that parable about if you throw a frog into a boiling pot of water, it'll jump out because it's hot. But if you put the frog in the pot of water and slowly turn the heat up while the frog is in it, it won't jump out because it will adjust to the heat and the temperature, and it won't realize that it's gotten too hot until it's dead. Frog boiling water. Yeah, it's an urban myth. It's a fable, yeah. But that's kind of where we're at with COVID and with capitalism more broadly, is we get used to things. We've just kind of, in the United States, gotten used to the fact that thousands of people are dying every day from something that's entirely preventable or largely mitigatable, and we're not mitigating it or preventing it. You know, back in March and April, there was a real, like, palpable fear of the thing for me. And now it's just, like, resigned acceptance. Personally, there's a lot of anxiety and fear. And, you know, I've lost family members now. But when you get to numbers as large as what we're seeing, I mean, we've had more people die from COVID-19 in a year than the United States lost from World War II in 4 years. That's an insane number. That's an incredibly insane number, but it's so big, and it's so consistent, and it's kind of not invisible, but people aren't literally dropping dead in the streets, right? It's being obfuscated and hidden from the public eye in an attempt to create an illusion of normalcy. It doesn't feel as pressing as maybe it should. Alright, we got 9 minutes left. Let's talk politics. Shit's crazy. My world's on fire. How about yours? love seeing a vaguely attempted coup, or at least disruption of our national elections, and very little come of it. Oh yeah, a bunch of individual insurrectionists have been arrested. I think the total's past 60 now. But like, here in Seattle, members of the Seattle Police Department participated. They haven't even been fired. They're on temporary leave. Cops all across the nation participated in this. Former soldiers all across the nation and active service members across the nation participated in this. There's no way that this problem is being solved. The capital of my country is under military occupation right now. There is a garrison in the United States Capitol. There is something very wrong if you need to protect your facsimile of democracy with a gun. Because this points to much greater institutional problems, much greater societal problems. The Biden administration, I do not think, will be up to the challenge, or even willing to engage with the challenge of rebuilding and restructuring this nation. We need a reconstruction period. And I don't think he's gonna do it. Especially after mere days of tweeting about how we need $2,000 checks, they walked that down to $1,400. Now, we need $2,000 a month minimum, retroactive to the beginning of the pandemic. Now, the average American, 19%, I think, 19 million Americans are behind on rent right now. 19 million Americans. And of those 19 million, they are, on average, $5,000 in debt behind on their rent payments. $19 million. And that's not accounting for people who are living with those people who have been unhoused since the beginning of the crisis, people who were unhoused before the eviction moratorium set in, people who've been unhoused despite the eviction moratoriums. We need a substantial social stimulus program. Not some pittance bullshit that we've been getting, but we need to give people the kind of money they need to stay in their homes, the kind of money they need to get into homes, the kind of money they need to feed themselves and clothe themselves and take care of themselves, and maybe even start saving up. And God forbid, maybe actually start buying things to stimulate our failing economy. But that's not going to happen. The Biden stimulus plan ambitiously moves the minimum wage up to $15 over the course of, I think, 7, 8 years, something like that. It's ridiculous. Now, I may be getting that wrong. It's not just an immediate boost to $15. It's a slow, yearly incremental raise up to $15. But if you look at what we should be making minimum wage compared to minimum wage when it was created, accounting for inflation and the productive capability of laborers today compared to the productive capability of laborers then, we should be making at minimum $22 an hour now in the United States. Just accounting for inflation. So $15 is already like a decade out of date. And it's going to take the better part of a decade to get there with this plan that's woefully inadequate. I mean, that's all we're going to see time and time again from a Biden-Harris administration. Is just failure to appreciate the severity of the situation we're in, failure to live in the times and the realities of the vast majority of Americans, failures to address these deep, seething divides politically, ideologically, philosophically within our nation, and taking action that should have been taken 10 years ago, is way overdue, is woefully inadequate, and aren't even band-aids on a gaping wound. I'm not hopeful for the Biden administration. I'm not. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know. This is incredibly frustrating. A horrible time to be alive in. I take heart that there are all-time high numbers of socialists registering in Socialist Rifle Association, the Democratic Socialists of America, Socialist Alternative, etc., in the United States. That's great. That really is great. The level of mutual aid, the level of organizing, level of activism, and participation is rising to a point where it should have been 20 years ago. And I love to see it. And I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm an absolute advocate of it. But I do feel like I'm drowning. And it is hard to feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Because right now the tunnel just kind of curves as if it will eventually hit the light. But not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. That's a hell of a mixed metaphor, but I think I'll wrap up here. It's been about an hour. Am I okay? As okay as I have been. This isn't the worst I've been all year. Not the best either, but not the worst. I want to quit talking. Wrap this up. I should eat, probably. I don't really want to. I should do laundry. I don't really want to. I should take out the garbage. I don't really want to. I should do some of those things so I feel productive about today. And then actually make something today that I can be proud of or feel productive about. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Will I be back on later today? Maybe. Was it Monday? If the mood strikes me. I know that's a sellout, cop-out of an answer. Sellout is not right. Cop-out of an answer, but I honestly do not know. Don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So, yeah, until later. I'm wasting away in Margaritaville. Toodaloo. Take care. Bye-bye.